Well, we have an extremely loud double beeping, which means it's going to be super shallow. 85. Check with the pinpointer because I feel like it's right under the surface. Yeah, it's right here. What is that? Incredible. Well, hey folks, my name is Brad. If you happen to be new to my videos, I explore the mountains of Vermont searching for treasure with my metal detector. And today I find myself, as you can probably tell, on the shores of this lake because right over here is an old stone foundation from a home that was here before they flooded this entire valley over 100 years ago. Now, we haven't had a good rain here in Vermont in several months, so the water level is very, very low, exposing this old farm. And today I have brought my metal detector to hopefully find a few treasures that have not been exposed in a very long time. Now, if this happens to be one of the first of my videos that you've seen, I publish one of these every single Friday. So if you like what you see here today, consider hitting that subscribe button. Just come on back next week. I'm gonna get that metal detector turned on and see what we can find. Well, this was an accident. I was just swinging my coil, as you do, and I hit this piece of iron just like this. Oh, what is this? Now, just by the nature of this place, it was flooded well over 100 years ago, and occasionally the water will be down like it is today, and then it'll come up again, and then sometimes it's down again, and that action has exposed tons of stuff. A lot of glass, brick, rusty iron objects. And when my coil accidentally knocked this one out of the sand, I almost immediately knew exactly what it was because I'm always on the lookout for these. This is a maple sugaring spile. If you're unfamiliar with the process, you can drill a hole in our sugar maple trees, insert one of these, and over the course of period of time in the springtime, specifically when it's freezing at night and not freezing during the day, the sap will run out of this spile into a bucket that would actually hang from the spile itself. There would have been a little bail hook for a bucket. Just a few weeks ago, I was at an old foundation in the mountains that had an evaporator for making maple syrup or maple sugar. Here we have more evidence of a maple sugaring operation many miles away. And what's interesting is you look around and I don't necessarily see a whole lot of maple trees here, but our Vermont mountains have been logged over and over and over again, even over the last 100 years. So that's not a surprise, unfortunately. As a Vermonter, maple syrup is a staple in our household, real maple syrup. And I've only ever found maybe 3 or 4 maple spiles before. They are iron, so they're harder to find with the way I use my metal detector, filtering out that stuff. If I didn't spot this with my eyes, I don't think I would have found it. I'm glad I did. Awesome old antique maple spile. There's a lot of targets right here. This one's really loud. I don't know if it's this white thing I'm seeing on the surface. No, that's glass. Very shallow though. Ooh, is that a brooch or sash buckle? Yeah, I think this is a little tiny sash buckle. If there was any decoration on it, I don't think there is any now, unfortunately, but probably plated, very simple. So a little cloth strap or belt would have gone through there. That's a surprise, a welcome one. Now, there's targets all over the place right here. I'm going to start with this one, which is a 66. Seems like it's basically right on top. Wow. Look at that. Are you kidding me? Well, it is not uncommon whatsoever to find suspender clips metal detecting old places like this. In fact, it's not unusual to find 1 or 2 every single time. That being said, I very rarely find them with any text on them. Usually it's just a little flower design, but this one very clearly right across the front says President. Now, this is the brand President suspenders. They came about at the end of the 1800s. I believe they phased out around the 1960s, but we know for a fact that this place was gone by 1920. So that gives us a pretty good window of when these were made, when they were worn, and then when they were either lost or thrown out. Now, I do not believe that these were lost because for the first time ever, I found not just one suspender clip, or 2 or 3, I actually found 15 pieces of this whole setup. Now, I've said a lot in past videos that suspenders have multiple pieces to them. Some of them were quite the apparatus. It seems like I have found the whole thing. So I'm wondering if this was in the house when it was eventually abandoned and flooded, and this is where it ended up. In any case, as far as non-precious metal suspender clips go, this might be, the biggest and best I've ever found. It both has the name brand on there, and it seems like we got just about the whole thing minus the straps. That's pretty cool. This is a very loud 50. Everything seems to be very shallow. So I'll just check with my pinpointer. Whoa. That is a spoon handle. Beautiful one too. It rang far too low to be silver, but it is cleaning up like the silver plate on it is. Nice and intact. That's a nice one. I assume it's a spoon. It's always a spoon. Nice. Right here we have an absolutely overloading 92, which means it's either going to be really shallow, really big. Oh yeah, big. It's big. Oh, I can see the edge of it right here. Nice. Look at that. Well, as I have been metal detecting around the main home foundation, I've been noticing these rectangles of stacked stone. And I can only speculate what these were at one time, but judging by what I just found in this one, it seems pretty likely that this is where they stored either their sleigh or their carriage, because this, of course, is an old bell. Now, old bells that have this shape could have gone to lots of different things. A telephone, although definitely not here. An old clock, even old children's toys had bells shaped like this. But all of those would have had a post that went up through the center of this bell, while this one at one time had a clapper attached to a chain. We're very familiar with the old crodle style bells or jingle bells that went around the horse's neck on a strap of leather, but this one was actually on a metal strap that was attached to the wagon or the sleigh itself. There would have been maybe 4 or 5 of these in a row with the clappers hanging down below, and as they traveled, they made jingling sounds to warn oncoming traffic that there may be a traffic jam coming up on all of these old, very narrow mountain roads. This one is a beautiful white bronze. It is as shiny as it was the day it was new. I don't have a great way of letting you hear this one ring, but get a little idea from that. Awesome find. Well, there is just so much iron in the ground here. It's not uncommon for the metal detector to be falsing every once in a while, giving you a high tone when it's not something good. This one, though, 50-50. Sometimes it's really nice, 90. See it? Is this? Okay. Well, I thought it was just going to be a copper pipe there for a second, but it is clearly ornamental. It's got this ball on top and like a candy cane twist to it. It seems like it's broken off of whatever it was originally attached to. Is it a foot to something? Is it like a finial to something? Looks like it was silver plated. You can see a lot of it still there. Let me know what you think. Well, I don't even have my metal detector because I was walking to retrieve a camera. And you can see there's stuff on the ground everywhere. And as I was walking by, I actually saw this first, which caught my eye. I think that is the handle to an old knife. Then I saw this. I don't know. What else is over here? I think I know what this is. Geez, I don't even need my metal detector. There's just stuff everywhere. Actually, you know, these two things go together. Well, we have a bit of a mystery find here. Although I say that, I'm pretty confident I know what it is and how it works. But what it originally went to, I'm not quite sure. Now, when I first found this round brass piece, I thought maybe it was a very small, like, photo frame. But then I found the second piece to this. Seeing these two things together, it makes a lot of sense. So this would have actually slipped through the hole in this round brass piece, and it doesn't work anymore, but at the time you would have been able to turn this and lock it. Now, just by the nature of how this would have had to interact with each other limits what it could have gone to. It would have had to have been on something pliable like leather. Now, my mind automatically goes to something like a purse because, you know, money, and I'm out here metal detecting, but probably more likely it went to something like saddlebags. Let me know what you think this clasp went to. Unbelievably, we found both parts of it, which solved half of the mystery for us. But what it actually went to, I'm a bit stumped. Well, I'm right on the edge of the foundation here, and I look down, and there's stuff everywhere. Little iron, this looks like a piece of an old hoe. But I saw this. That is just a solid black bead. I think it's black. It might be real dark blue. Necklace, rosary, bracelet, sewn right into the clothes. Because of the nature of this place where the water is constantly eroding, we get things like this exposed. Glass, brick, iron. Beads? Awesome. $62. This? Ooh, are you a coin? Oh yeah. Well, it's not always the case, but usually the higher the number on the metal detector, the more excited you can get. Right? If it's above 85 or 90, there's a pretty good chance it's going to be something made out of copper, like a coin, or silver, jewelry, a ring, or a coin. This place, though, I have been really struggling to find any nice high tones, and so the bulk of things I've been finding have been registering between 40 and 60 and 70, and there aren't a whole lot of coins that will read up in that range, except the one I just found. This is a nickel, and it is a nickel from the time period we would expect to find here. It is a buffalo nickel. Unfortunately, the Native American bust on the front of this is pretty unrecognizable, but we can see very clearly the buffalo on the back. Now, the buffalo nickel was made between 1913 and 1938, and we know that this house had to have been underwater before 1920, so that's a very short window for when this particular coin could have been made. So we can't see the date, but we know it's got to be very shortly after 1913. These people must have just been very good with their big copper coins and their silver coins at this particular farm. But you know, since there aren't a whole lot of nice high tones, I have been forced to go through all of these lower and middle tones, and that's how we ended up finding this nickel. A coin I don't honestly find very often because I am searching for those nice high tones. I wish it was in better condition, but, you know, I'm happy to find it. Really loud, clear 92. Sounds shallow or big. Let's see it. Wow. That might be the biggest, I'm going to say, pump organ reed I've ever seen. You can imagine a piano. The way it works is you have a pedal that you pump with your feet and it pushes air through reeds like this. There would be a flap of probably steel, I guess, that as the air pushes through, it'd vibrate and it would create a note, a single note. Typically, these things are this big, tiny. We find them for accordions oftentimes, but the size of it has to be an organ. Imagine out here, over 100 years ago, some organ music playing. Really, really beautiful. Now you could switch them out, right? If the reed got bent or something, or the note wasn't in tune, you could actually switch these out. But typically, if we find one, they're all here. Maybe not 88, but a lot. That's awesome. I've never seen one so big. Well, we have an extremely loud double beeping, which means it's going to be super shallow. 85. Check with the pinpointer because I feel like it's right under the surface. Yeah, it's right here. What is that? Well, we found ourselves a nice high tone, and unfortunately it was not a silver dollar this time. But I am once again back in one of these stone rectangles where I found the bell earlier, and I was speculating maybe it's where they stored the carriage or the sleigh. And what we have right here is certainly related to that. Now, I find these very, very often. Although, that being said, the design on them is almost always unique. This is a bridle rosette. I went to the bridle of a horse up on the side of their head, and this one, like many others, is very, very heavy. It's a solid lead. Sometimes they were brass filled with lead. I honestly have no idea why they made them so heavy. Maybe some of you people that work with horses and still use bridle rosettes can chime in as to why that is. But we can see in the back here there would have been a little loop for the strap to go through. And this is absolutely beautifully still silver plated. And you know, it's interesting to think about when this place was flooded. I wonder if the buildings were still standing, right? With maybe bridles still hanging on the wall, right where the original owners potentially left it. It's kind of a peculiar scene to think about. Homes and sheds and barns still standing underwater. Great find, a bridle rosette, and it makes a whole lot of sense where we found it. All right, folks, well, I am calling it quits for the day. And what an amazing place this was, right? Not just the story, which is amazing in and of itself, right? An old farmhouse that was flooded over 100 years ago. But, you know, I'm here to metal detect and find treasures in the ground, but there's just stuff on top of the ground everywhere. You could have a great day here just without a metal detector, walking around looking. The things we found today were very typical Vermont farm items: horse tack, suspenders, and at least 2 coins. I did end up finding a wheat cent as well. I had an absolute blast. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and if you enjoyed it enough, you'd like to see a slightly longer version with more site context, more finds, and even bloopers. I think we're gonna lose our sunscreen here. My driftwood monopod. Got a shot in the eye with the sun. Consider becoming a Green Mountain member. All the information for that will be down below the video in the comments section. Thanks again for watching. Hopefully I'll see you next Friday for another new adventure somewhere up here in the mountains of Vermont.